O Iqbal, honor and glory. Vijayan, Jnanam, Shaurya, learning and courage. Put together, they stand for learning, courage, honor, and glory. The perfect order. These are not mere words. These are the ethos of a person who is willing to give it all for the sake of his duty. These are the mottos of the Indian artillery and the Indian infantry. What will you do when at 20,000 feet, in the unforgiving peaks of the Siachen Glacier, where temperatures go beyond negative 40 degrees Celsius, you are pinned down by the enemy? Your soldiers, freezing in the blistering cold, look at you for directions, while enemies' bullets whiz past their ears. What would you do when the shells of the enemy's artillery hurl over your head, while your own artillery is waiting for your commands? At this moment, you are nothing. Not a soldier, not a hero, not a winner, and not a loser. It is what will you do next that will define who you are. Imagine the stress and the pressure on the mind of that soldier. The fear, the tension, the calculations. Will he emerge victorious or will he fall? Now imagine a student like you and me, carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. The cutthroat competition of finding a job, the anxiety of presentations, the fear of giving deadlines. The mind of a student is restless, their thoughts racing here and there. Fear, anxiety suddenly take over. We have responsibilities and expectations that we have to live up to. But what about our own dreams and ambitions? Will you be able to achieve them? Will you be successful? Or will we crumble under the weight? These two people, miles apart, fight the same battle, fear of adversity. The soldier I mentioned is my father, and the student is me. So I asked him, what was going through your mind in that situation? What were your thoughts? I believe that if I could learn from him, I could implement it in my own life and eliminate the problems troubling me. Even though our enemies were different, our battle was the same. And that is the reason I am here today, to share with you my own learning and experience on how the psyche of a soldier in battle is analogous to a student going through life. Let us begin our journey by continuing with the Siachen Glacier. My father, Colonel Asmit Walia, was just 23 years old when he was posted at the highest battlefield in the world. Imagine a young person from a small house in Lucknow fighting for his life and for the country at the highest battlefield in the world. His enemies were not only those throwing shells towards him from across the border. His enemies included frostbites, lack of food, lack of water, sleepless nights, and the worst of all, loneliness. He not only had to keep himself motivated, but being the officer in charge, he had to motivate his jawans to fight as well. So much on the mind of a young soldier who had never been away from home. But he told himself, he reminded himself, he is an officer of the Indian Army. Failure is not accepted from him. For a year, he would fight the glacier and the enemies until he was forced to come down due to snow blindness. So I asked him, what was going through your mind in that period? He told me, I am a soldier of the Indian Army. I fight where I am told and I win where I fight. We students have come to this institute to learn, take a leap in our life, and lead the society to a brighter future. We have to adapt to this new environment, away from our homes, our families, to navigate this new terrain of sleepless nights, constant anxiety, stress, and occasional loneliness, only for us so that we can start our career on a higher note. But remember, embracing this adversity as a catalyst for growth is what will take us forward. If we learn from the obstacles that we face now, it will help us face much more difficult obstacles that are yet to come. Now, I will take you through a journey through some of the fiercest battles fought by the Indian Army soldiers and what can we learn from them. Let us begin our journey by reeling back 128 years during the peak of the British Raj. On 12th September 1897, 10,000 enemy mercenaries marched on Fort Gulistan in Saragarhi. The fort was manned by just 21 soldiers of the 36th Sikh Battalion, which is still active. Its sister fort, Fort Lockhart, was not far away, but traveling took a lot of time due to the rough terrain of the Hindu Kush Mountains. Havaldar Ishwar Singh, the senior-most Jawan of the 21 Sikhs, had two choices: either flee as told by his superiors, or fight long enough for the reinforcements to arrive at Fort Lockhart. Despite knowing it meant certain death, he chose the latter. For 7 straight hours, those 21 soldiers fought against an army of 10,000. They fought for their country, they fought for their land, their people, and for the pride in their roots. If this is not valor, I don't know what is. This is dedication and courage at its finest. This is what they say: stand your ground, come what may. When I was a student, what can I learn from them? I learned that I must always stay dedicated to my own goals, my team's goals, my organization's goals, and have the courage to take risks, despite knowing that I might have a high chance that I fail. But that is what will make me a stronger human being. I learned that as students, we must stand our ground too, not against the life-threatening bullets, but something that is equally deadly: self-doubt, anxiety, and the fear of adversity. There's a wise saying: the strength of a person is not measured by the muscles in his arms, but by those inside his brains. Now, imagine when I tell you 2,000 soldiers, 50 tanks, 7 aircrafts, all marching to attack a mere 120 Indian soldiers. You would say that victory for the Indians is almost impossible. And even if they do win, they will suffer immense casualties. But what if I told you, not only did they win, they had only 2 casualties, while they inflicted 200 upon the enemy. So fast forward 70 years from the night to the night of 4th December 1971. At the stroke of the midnight hour, Major Pradeep Singh Chandpuri received an info that 3,000 to 4,000 enemy soldiers, 50 plus tanks, 7 plus aircrafts, and hundreds of battle-ready vehicles were steadily approaching towards him at Longewala, a small town at the borders of Rajasthan and Pakistan. The enemy were aware that Longewala will be an easy spot to ambush because it took 6 hours for the reinforcement to arrive there. It had no air support during the night, and it had only 120 soldiers guarding it. They were aware that the Indian army was preoccupied with the war in eastern Pakistan at the eastern border, and so they decided to attack the western flank. They believed that it would be cakewalk, only it wasn't. The young major, when receiving the information, had 2 choices: either flee on foot or fight the enemy for the entire night. Of course, being a soldier of the Indian army, he chose the latter. But the big question was, how will he hold off such a huge force with a mere 120 men, and that too for the entire night? And will he and his men come out of it alive? There's an old saying in the army: the more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. The Major began his preparations by analyzing the situation. He studied the terrain and the environment. He sent out a scout party to continuously track the enemy's movement. He had his artillery on standby. He placed his soldiers at carefully selected locations in order to outsmart the enemy into thinking that there was a larger force defending Longewala than there actually was. For the entire night, they fought. On the break of dawn of 5th December, the Indian Air Force and the reinforcement arrived, and they annihilated the enemy, forcing them to retreat. Major Chandpurni and his men had won. They had survived the night. He had only one goal in his mind, that was to survive the night, and he achieved it. He had only 2 casualties, and he inflicted 200 and more on the enemy. Major Kuldeep Singh Chandpuri teaches us a lesson that every student should embrace in their lives. Leadership. Leaders should be dedicated to the goals with all their heart. Goals they should be planned intricately at the highest level, and they should be ensured that each and every team member should believe in it. Robust organizations can only achieve their targets when each and every team member is moving in sync and the larger picture is crystal clear. It is the job of the team leader to ensure that his members are working towards their targets and also to inspire them to become leaders themselves when the need arises. So, my dear friends, our journey comes to an end. There remain countless more stories to be told of these brave hearts. They showed unmatchable dedication, focus, determination, and the ability to guide the men to victory in the bravest of hours. And that is the lesson they teach us. Remember, whenever you raise your hand to answer a question in your class, whenever you pull an all-nighter to study for an exam or to prepare a project, whenever you promise yourself that you will do better, you're fighting the adversity that pushes you down with that indomitable spirit inside you. I hope that by lending me your ears today, I was able to inspire a spark inside your souls, inside your hearts, that will help you burn the fear that fuels adversity to ashes. Students and soldiers, both alike, through chaos, we must survive. With pens as our blades and choices well made, we conquer, adapt, and thrive. Thank you.